Hi, my name is Rachel, and this video will provide an update to the Indian Peaks Wilderness Association regarding my proposal entitled Genetic and Acoustic Characterization of Hybrid Fitness and Hybrid Zone Dynamics. First, to provide some background for the context of my project, I'll be providing a brief background on some of the literature that my project is based on. Around 50 years ago, a researcher named Preston Summers recorded pika vocalizations at 26 sites across 4 states: Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, and Colorado. Interestingly, he found that some pikas in different geographic regions had distinctly different vocalizations. His work showed that the mean fundamental frequencies and durations of the first notes were much different from each other. His work showed that pikas northwest of the Colorado River at sites 1 through 14 had a mean fundamental frequency of 460 Hz and first note duration of 350 milliseconds, here labeled as dialect A, whereas pika southeast of the Colorado River at sites 15 through 26 had a mean fundamental frequency and first note duration of 1105 Hz and 180 milliseconds respectively, here labeled as dialect B. Additionally, in 1976, Dr. Summers discovered that captive-bred hybrid offspring of parents with dialects A and B had calls with an intermediate fundamental frequency and first note duration with values for each falling between those of the parents. This suggests that pikas have inherited rather than learned vocalizations. There are 2 subspecies of pikas in Rocky Mountain National Park. These are Ochotona princeps and Op saxatilis. The map on the right depicts areas where pika scat was sampled in Rocky Mountain National Park. These studies were done about 10 years ago. The 2 subspecies in the park are depicted by blue and red dots, where blue is Op princeps, or the northern subspecies, and Op saxatilis is red and represents the southern subspecies. The purple dots in the map depict hybrid pikas and are primarily centered around Mount Chapin. This previous research laid the foundations for 3 central questions that were laid out in the proposal. These can be briefly summarized as 1. Can pika subspecies and their hybrids be distinguished based on their vocalizations, as can be inferred from the works of Preston Summers and Jessica Castillo-Vardaro? 2. Where and to what extent are pikas hybridizing in Rocky Mountain National Park and the surrounding regions? And 3. What are the impacts of the Cameron Peak and East Troublesome fires on species distribution and hybridization? This map displays the extent of scat sampling and acoustic recording using audio moths done this summer at Rocky Mountain National Park. The black rabbit icons represent pika scat samples, and the green boxes represent audio moths. Sampling sites were based upon the transect map that was presented in the original proposal, in addition to other factors such as proximity to trails and overlap or non-overlap with previously sampled areas. Additionally, sampling sites were selected based on the probable pika subspecies or hybrid status that they were believed to be based upon previous studies. For example, in the Mount Chapin area. In total, 54 pika scat samples were collected as shown here. Pika calls were primarily recorded using the Rode devices shown here on the left as the portable device detailed in the proposal, and using the audio moths shown here on the right. The recording devices shown on the left were used to record pika calls across 16 days in the park, resulting in a total of 145 individual recording files. And 29 audio moth placements were made, as shown in the map previously. As winter approaches, the data collection phase of the project is coming to an end. The current status of the project is that the data collected using the audio moths and Rode devices shown previously are being annotated using Ravenlight, which will be shown shortly. Additionally, the scat samples collected will be sent to Jessica Castillo-Vardaro shortly. The next portion of this video will go over how acoustic recordings are annotated in Ravenlight. But first, let's watch a quick pika video that contains some of the vocalizations we'll be looking at. Opening up the extracted audio from that video in Raven Light, we can see the spectrograms and amplitude plots as shown. The spectrogram has frequency in kilohertz on the y-axis and time in seconds on the x-axis. Here, I am selecting the first call of the Pika video that we just watched. I can then annotate it here as SC, which stands for short call, and save it in the selection table below. The selection table will contain parameters of the calls, such as begin time, end time, and the low and high frequencies. The data contained in the selection table can then be used to extract individual Pika calls and save them as WAV files. It can also be used to analyze the calls in terms of their specific quantitative parameters, such as the low and high frequencies. Before beginning the analysis stage of the project, all of the audio recordings collected over the summer must be annotated in a similar manner as shown here. Now, let's watch another short Pika video recorded in a different area of Rocky Mountain National Park. Now, let's take a closer look at one of the spectrograms from one of the calls in each of the videos. This is the first call from the first video that we watched, which sounds like this. And here is the third call from the second video we watched, which sounds like this. Not only can the differences in the individual Pika calls that we just heard be recognized by ear, they can also be displayed visually here in the spectrograms as shown. This version of the previously shown map includes points where Pika scat was collected during the PIP studies. The small snowflakes represent Pikas of O. princeps, while the small fireballs represent Pikas of O. saxatilis, as determined by their scat samples. The small purple aliens represent hybrid Pikas, while the question marks are unknown. Here is where the first Pika that we watched was recorded. And here is where the second video that we watched of the Pika calling was recorded. Although these are only two vocalizations that were recorded, the general trend of Pikas having different vocalizations where there are different subspecies is expected to continue as analysis proceeds.